Hey, what is going on everyone? Welcome back to another video in this Introduction to Python series. In this video, we'll be using most of the topics that we've learned so far to create a very simple game in Python. Now, I might be bursting a few bubbles here, but this isn't going to be the next Call of Duty. The game I'm thinking we could make is a simple hot and cold game where the computer will just pick a random number and you're left to guess what that number is. Every time you guess a number, you should also be given a hint that tells you how close you are to said number. This shouldn't be too hard, so let's start making our first game. So before I actually start making the game, I would highly recommend that you go off on your own and actually try to do it yourself. But before you do that, you are going to need 2 lines of code to generate the random number, and I already typed them out before the video. This will import the function randint, what we're going to be using to generate the random number. It's just going to generate a random number from 1 to 100 and store it within this variable here. Okay, so you should have enough information to go off on your own and actually try to make the game yourself. When you're done, or if you're stumped, come back and you can see how I did it. To start off, I would like to take you through the initial process of developing a new program, whether it's like an app, a game, or a website. To start off, you always want to figure out the core functions of your program and write them out somewhere. So a few things that I believe this program should do is be able to grab the user's name. So at the end, when they actually guess the correct number, we could say something like, "Congrats, Tim, you guessed the correct number." And it should also be able to tell you how many guesses it took for you to correctly guess the random number. Okay, so now that we know that we want to be able to store the amount of guesses that the user has submitted to the program, we're going to need to make a variable for that. So we're going to call it attempts. And we're going to initially set that to 0. And we also know that we want to be able to grab the user's name. So we learned this in the last video. We can type in name and we can get some input from the user. And we can just type in, "What is your name?" Okay, so this first line will store all of the attempts that the user submits to the program, and then this one's going to grab their name. After that, the user should be able to start submitting guesses to our program. So we know after all of this stuff, we're going to need to run some form of a loop so the user can submit guesses to try to guess that random number. We don't know how many guesses that's going to take, so we're going to use a while loop. And we'll just do our while true loop. All right, so within our while loop, we're going to actually want to grab our user's guess. So we're going to make a new variable. We can call it user's guess. Nice. And then we want to grab input from the user. So we're going to use the input function. And we can type in, what do we want to say? What is my number? Beautiful. So the reason we're putting this within the while loop is because we want to be able to continuously ask the user for a new guess. If we were to put it outside of the while loop, then we'd only be able to ask them it once. Now, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to quit the while loop. So we could say if the user's guess equals, we'll say quit. We're going to break out of this while loop. But the user needs to be able to know that, so we can come back up here, type in print, and we'll just say enter in quit to exit the program. Perfect. Actually, let's put some single quotes here, kind of makes it a little bit more clear. And then I'd actually like to save and run this to make sure that everything's actually working. And we'll actually come into here, print, and we'll see if the computer is actually generating our random number. So we'll save and run that. Come down here. So we get, what is your name? I'll type in Jason. Enter in quit to exit the program. What is my number? If we typed in 51, it's just going to keep asking us that. We'll type in quit. So then that exited our program and the random number was 1. So let's actually run this again and make sure we actually get a new number. What is my number? We'll just type quit again. And now we get 35. Okay, so the random number is working and we can actually leave the program. The next thing I like to do is just kind of fix these a little bit. So we'll just put little spaces afterwards. When we come back down to the terminal, you'll see when we type in quit or our name, it's butted up against our text to notify the user like, hey, you got to put in something here. So that'll just make things a little bit neater. Then the next thing we have to do is exit the program when the user actually guesses the correct number. So there's 2 ways we could do this. The better way to do it would be using the logical AND operator, but we didn't learn about those yet. We're going to actually be covering those in future videos. So for now, we're just going to use an elif, and then if the user's guess equals the number to guess, we want to be able to break out of this loop. But we also mentioned that we'd like to print out like a congrats Tim, you guessed the correct number. So to do that, print, and we'll just say that congratulations space plus whatever the user's name is, space you guessed my number, and then maybe we could put the number in parentheses or something. So we'll do this parenthesis there, and then we'll just put the number to guess. Oh, this is gonna have to actually be in a string because it'll be an integer. So what this is doing, it's just gonna convert this integer that the computer generated into a string, so all this can be concatenated together. Plus closing parenthesis, nice. So you guessed my number, whatever that is, in, and then we wanted to do, so we're gonna have to convert our attempts to a string as well. Attempts, then we'll just put tries. All right, I feel like we should test this and make sure it actually works. But before we do that, I'm really not feeling 1 to 100. I'm thinking more like, let's say 1 to 5, so we're not sitting here forever. So we'll save this and run it. Come down, what is your name? And you'll see we actually have the space here, so it looks a little bit nicer. Jason, enter in quit to exit the program. Nice. So what is my number? We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. So it should be 5. Wait a second. Hold on. Oh, that's what we, okay. So if you come up here, we'll see in our elif statement, we have our user's guess, right? That's taking in some input, but that's actually a string. Now the number to guess is an integer. You can't really compare the two, so we're gonna either have to convert this to an integer or this to a string. So let's just convert this to a string. So if we save this and run it, come down, what is your name? Jason. And then let's try it again. 1, 2, nice. Congratulations, Jason. You guessed my number 2 in 0 tries. Okay, so that's one thing we forgot to do. So we have our attempts, right? So our user's guess. After that, we're gonna wanna increase that by 1. So if we did attempts plus equals 1, that should change that. And then we can also see that 0 is butted up against tries, so we need a space here. We'll save and run this. Name, nice. Well, this is looking good. 1, 2, 3, sweet. Congratulations, Jason, you guessed your number 3 in 3 tries. All right, so everything's working, looking good. All right, so I think the game's looking pretty good so far. The only thing we need to do is we need to be able to inform the user on how close they are to the number to guess. So we need to set up a few ranges to determine whether or not we're gonna print out hot, warm, or cold. So I think the first range should be within 5. So if the number to guess was 50, if the user guessed anywhere from 45 to 55, we should print out hot. To do that, we're gonna do a little if statement, and we'll say the number to guess, so we'll do the left side of it, -5 is less than if the user's guess, that's less than the number to guess plus 5. Sweet. But before I forget, the user's guess is a string. These are integer values, so we're gonna need to convert the user's guess to an integer. Okay, so this should work, and this should give us our range of 10, but if it's either 5 away from either left or right, we're gonna print out hot. Okay, so then we'll do an else if. So this one, we're gonna need another range. I'm thinking about 20, but where this is gonna need to butt it up against this range up here. So to do that, what we're gonna need to do is, we're gonna have our number to guess. So this is on the left side, so we're gonna need to include this first, -20. So while that is less than, we'll convert this to an integer, the user's guess, and then now on this side, we're gonna need to butt it up against here. Back, and then we'll print warm. Sweet. Now, if we use number to guess -5 here, number to guess -5 here, but we use the less than symbol, there's gonna actually be a hole within our range. So we're gonna need to do less than or equal to fill in for that number. And then we're going to need to hit the other side over here. Now, we're going to be covering this in future videos. We could actually link these two if statements together with a logical OR operator, but we didn't cover those yet, so we're going to use two if statements. So now we're going to get the other side of this range, but we're going to make this a +5 to butt it up against this one. And this is going to be an equals, and let's just make all these equal to. And then this one will be our 20. So this will be a +20 instead of +5. And then that'll get our range for warm. Sweet. And then if it's not in either of those ranges, else, we're just going to print out cold, or let's do little chilly. Little chilly. All right, so you made it through the ranges. Let that sink in for a little bit. If it's really confusing, don't worry. I made an animation and it's going to clear everything up for you. Okay, so one of the very first things that happened in our game is the computer picks some random number. For our sake, let's just say this number is 50. So if we put this variable in the corner, I can add in a number line and show you the individual ranges that our if statements create. Our very first if statement looks something like this. The range that it covers is highlighted in red. If the user is in between 45 and 55, then we're going to print out hot to inform the user that they're really close to the number to guess. Now notice that the number to guess is not included within this range. That's only because we placed the if statement to check if the user's guess was the number to guess. Then we break out of the loop, which gives this code no chance to run when the correct number is guessed. Had we put the range code first, hot would be printed when the user guessed the correct number, and then the program would stop. That doesn't really make sense, so we put that first. The next if statement covers the range from 30 to 45 in this case, because our number to guess is 50. Now you might be wondering why the range isn't from 25 to 45, because we wanted a range of 20. That is because we subtract 20 from the initial value of num to guess, which in this case will result in 30. This else if statement will cover the left side of the range, while the next if statement covers the right side of the num to guess range. Then finally, the else statement will cover all the other guesses that the user could possibly make. One other thing that you should take note of is that we do not limit the range of the user's guess, so if the number to guess was 1, the first if statement would have a range from -4 to 6. The user would hopefully never guess -4, but I guess since we don't regulate it, they totally could. So I hope that cleared some things up about what's happening in this block of code. Now, the only thing left to do is to test the game. So let's change this back to 100. So we'll save and run this. Here, Jason, and then what is my number? So let's try, I don't know, let's go 30. Hot, sweet. So if I did 80, a little chilly. If we did 60, okay. I just want to see if we get warm. Nice, warm. 30 is hot, so if we did like 26, 25, 24. Okay, so that's out of the range. Did 28, 29. Hey, there we go. I guessed the number 29 in 10 tries. All right, guys, I challenge you to beat me. If you do, don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know what you got. All right, so it looks like that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I feel like this was a little bit more interesting than some of the other videos in this series. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content like this. If you have any questions about the code, or if you're still struggling getting something working, just leave a comment down below and I'd be more than happy to help you out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.